I swapped the engine. I always wanted to have the pressure shown in the car, so about the turbo. And then I started reverse engineering the protocol, set up own hardware, including the software. This way I could show the gauge in the middle display of the car. I called that EMFA. It was my beginning with with touching these cars.
So welcome back, everybody, to the VWIDTalk podcast. We're your hosts, Wes and Jan, and today we're really excited to have Nima from Kufatec. One of the greatest things that I love about Kufatec, you've seen from our first few podcast episodes, we talk about how we like to do retrofit mods to our car that look like they belong there. We want OEM-looking mods, and that is what Nima has made the business out of, and that is what Kufatec is the ability to get factory mods that maybe you couldn't get in the United States, or maybe you just couldn't afford when you bought your car in the EU, and you want to add that in. So I think that's really cool. That's right up our alley. So thanks for joining us, Nima.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. So let's maybe kick off with the first question is, how did you get into these mods? And we've talked about a little bit of it. A little bit of it is also shared on your website, which is you made some modifications to your Golf 4. And so maybe why don't you tell us about that, and then how you started Kufatec and what you all offer for retrofitters and people who want to make some changes to their cars.
Okay. I mean, it all started when I was a university student, and my parents surprised me with a Golf 4 as a reward for my studies. But shortly after I got the car, I found some online forums, and then I learned all about vehicle tuning and retrofitting. Oh. And at that time, it was not really retrofitting; it was more tuning. I mean, installing big rims on the cars and things like this. And well, anyway, you know how it is. You get a brand new car. It feels like the happiest moment ever. And then a few weeks later, you realize that your car isn't as special as you thought. And well, there's a ton of work to do to upgrade it and make it your own, to customize it. It was my playground from that moment, and there were a lot of things I wanted to add. And one of my first projects was retrofitting xenon headlights into the car. Okay. I ended up buying some original headlights from a car dismantler, and they had test vehicles from Volkswagen and sold them off in parts. And it was basically a junkyard filled with prototypes. I mean, it was close to Wolfsburg. This company still exists, and they are also a good company, customer of us. And you had to pull off the parts yourself, and and that was what I did. And anyway, I thought I could just plug in the new headlights to the car, but it was different. The mechanic at the yard told me, no, actually, you need to cut the wires. Make sure that you cut them a long distance. And you need to solder it into your own. And that was nothing I wanted to do that way. And for that reason, I went deeper into the materials and found out which connectors I need, and created the first harness for myself. And frankly speaking, that was the first xenon adapter, which we still sell today. Yes.
Well, now, is your degree in engineering? Is that what you did at university? Or
I studied informatics. Okay. I think it's computer science. It calls computer science, and I got my bachelor degree. And because Kufatec came in between, I did not go for my master. By the way, that's something I still would like to do sometimes when I got more time, but.
Well, I'm laughing because your parents, didn't realize when they gave you the car that this was going to start you down this modding rabbit hole, and of course you'll never amount to anything. You need to focus on your studies, and then now all of a sudden you have this great business that came from your hobby. I love it. But so everything you've learned about tuning really is you had to learn on your own through research and
yes. Yeah, I had to do everything on my own, and well, I mean, it was a great time. So it
Yeah.
was. I mean, I also studied, but at the weekend, at my free time, I was building up things on my car and also building up things on other cars. Because I learned a lot of interesting people in the forums, and I still have some contact with some of them. So.
Oh, great. Yeah, the greatest time about modding is when you actually finish and get the mod to work, right? There's a lot of cursing in between, right?
That's for sure.
I had to learn to curse in German just so I could do some of the mods on my car. But,
Sag mal nicht. Don't say.
We'll cut that out.
So Nima, just out of curiosity, because I'm sure many people started with modding the headlights, and the reason why there were some changes is that the headlights that probably you had as OEM were so-called reflector headlights. So there was this big mirror, and you could see the light bulb in front of the mirror, and that was called reflector, because the light was reflecting from the mirror behind the light, and it didn't have any adjustments. And so I'm guessing, or dynamic adjustments, and I'm guessing you went into so-called projector headlights that has literally like a glass element that projects the light, and the bulb is behind that. And because the xenon headlights have much more higher power output, especially in the EU, the regulations are different in the US. They had to be auto-adjusted based on how the car is loaded. So there is a sensor on the back axle in the car that detects how the angle of the car, and based on that, it adjusts the lights. So there's more wires because there were some adjusting motors that went into the headlight, right? So it seems like there might be like simple retrofits, but when you go deeper, it's probably not as easy as it may seem. So was it like that? Is it accurate?
Well, I mean, yes. I mean, it was almost like this. I mean, it's more complex. In the EU, you need to install the automatic leveling system.
That too.
And some cars have two sensors. I mean, one in the front and one in the back. So this also depends. And the newer ones, they optimized it, so you will only need one sensor to install. Yes, but I mean, at that time, it was quite complex. My first, I mean, there are also, I mean, if you're talking about Golf 4, there are two different type of headlights, xenon headlights. After I think it was model year 2000, Volkswagen changed the way the leveling motors in the headlight were controlled, and because before that you could simply connect the leveling motors to the manual adjustment you got, but then they switched it to a different type, and from that time on you could not use a manual leveling system. I mean, by the way, it was also not allowed that before, but I did it my way for the first time. And afterwards, I also swapped the headlines again to the newer generation. So,
wow! So
did you ever experiment with the HID headlights, the high intensity discharge?
That's exactly
Is that what the
xenon, right?
I thought that was different.
Yes, I mean, in the US, you call it headlights, but most customers we got from the US, they ask for xenon headlights. So that's the way. That's the reason why I'm using the term xenon still in English.
Let me make some European joke here, because Europeans want to go deeper. They talk about the gas that is inside of the light, but Americans call more about the outcome. So that's why they say, hey, or maybe the process that is going on, that's high intensity discharge that happens inside of the bulb. But it's still the same bulb. We are talking about the same technology. So,
okay, I didn't know there was the same thing. Sorry. I'm learning.
And by the way, there's also one thing that is specific to Europe. And sorry, I'll just add it for our US listeners. Nima mentioned a knob that is in Euro cars on the dash that you were able to dim or to bend the beam downwards, so you were not shining into the eyes of oncoming vehicles. And that was even on very old cars. Like I remember some of these early systems were hydraulic, so there was a fluid that was kind of pushed. And anyway, so
blinker fluid was a real thing.
Blinker fluid was a real thing. Exactly.
Okay. All right.
So Nima, your Golf 4, you started with an engine swap that led into the headlight modification, then led to writing a custom software for your dash to show the turbo pressure. Is it right?
Almost. I mean, I started with a headlight swap. Then, there were a lot of other things. I'm not sure. The Bora, I think it's, I'm not sure if it's also sold under Bora in the US. I'm
known as Jetta here.
Jetta, yes. Some years later, the Jetta came on the German market, and they had some illuminated air vents.
Oh, wow.
And the Golf did not have them, and there are a lot of things I retrofit. After all, you can say the original car was maybe about 20,000 euros at that time, and I put another 20 into the car after I was done with it.
And of course, that did not increase the value at all, right?
No, it was.
Well, they used to say.
Totally,
I'm not sure this is true anymore, but the saying used to be that Volkswagen parts go together like Lego parts, where you can swap it. I don't know that that's true anymore, particularly with all the software adaptations that have to be done. But on my Mark IV Golf, I had to. We didn't have cup holders, but they made for the handbrake. They made a different for newer models of the Jetta that fit the Golf, and you had to widen the bolt holes on the handbrake and angle it a little bit. But I was able to get the cup holders in there. So yeah, you spend $20,000 on your $20,000 car, but it makes you enjoy it more, right? That's the
yes, of course. I had a great time. At the end. I would do the same, even if I lost all the money I put into the car. But it was a hobby for me. So
and you gained the experience, and
it's great that the hobby led you to build a company or join a company, right?
Yeah, I joined the company, and the interesting thing at that point is also, Christoph and Enrico, they opened the company sometimes in 2003. And before that, I already knew Christoph because I installed cruise control into his Golf. So that's how we met each other. So it's quite interesting. And after some years, they asked me because they wanted to do some video and motion systems. And they knew that I was doing hardware and software things. And especially they also knew my project for the instrument cluster, and then they asked me if I'm interested in joining the company. And at that time, I was still studying, and I also had a good job, but I was having some tough time because my girlfriend left me, and the whole world broke, and then I thought, okay. Maybe it's a sign to switch your life and do something else. And if it fails, so what else? You can still go back to what you are doing or what you have been doing before. And then I joined Kufatec. So
that's amazing. And can you tell us a little bit more about the software and hardware that you developed for the dashboard for the instrument cluster? So and many might remember this. I'm not sure where it started, if it was Mark IV or sooner. There was a display in the Highline. You guys talked about Highline, Lowline. So if you had the Highline equipment from the VW terms, you had a display in the center, and you have modded the display to show some values that were not there from the factory. So how did you do that?
Mm-hmm. Okay. What I did was I split up the bus system. The one I supported was called 3LB because it was some three wires going to the instrument cluster, and I don't remember that anymore. But I think it was 2 lines for signal, and I'm not sure what was the third one. Anyway, I split that one into my hardware and forwarded this to the car. So that way I was able to display all the radio data coming from the car. And I could switch. I could decide if I want to have the radio navigation data displayed in the car, or if I want to have my own data shown.
Yeah. So on the low-line clusters, they just had a fixed number of icons that could display, but the Highline was a full pixel array where you could program what was available to show, right? So that's great. I don't understand how you did that. It's really
if you're interested, I can show you the source code. I still got it somewhere here.
That's great. Yeah.
And so that means that you had to add your own microcontroller, right? That would kind of listen to the signal, decode it, and send some relevant information back into the car without the car detecting that there is something different.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, that's it.
That's great. So I guess I was going to ask you, you also build some custom hardware that you sell at Kufatec besides just the harnesses. Do you sell other things for cars besides? I mean, I noticed you sell Bluetooth adapters, but those are just pretty standard generic Bluetooth adapters. But for me, I mean, look, you can go on AliExpress and buy cheap parts, but when you go to Kufatec, you're getting a complete kit with a harness and a programming dongle. It's where you still have to know how to do the wiring, but once you do the wiring and connect everything up, I can plug your dongle in and everything just works. So, I mean, I'm sure that takes a lot of engineering work. Do you do other things as well besides just the hardware kits, like any kind of custom projects?
It depends on the projects. If it's big enough to offer mass market, then we will definitely look into it and then decide if it makes sense, if you can do it or not. I mean, it also depends on the complexity, which other components are required. But nevertheless, I mean, we are open for every project, and we can discuss everything. And if it makes sense, then we can go for it.
Love it. And so what is the main business of Kufatec these days? Are those the retrofits? Is it the custom work that you're doing? So what is the main business?
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, today it's mainly the retrofits we offer, the full kits. One more thing is about the coding, because I mean, that's something you probably heard something about SFD and SFD2.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Schutzfahrzeug diagnoser. So it's a protection system that protects the modules to be changed without a valid token that is issued by VW. In short, is it accurate?
Yeah, I mean, that's where you can call it game changer in the retrofit market, especially SFD2 system, which they invented. I mean, SFD1 is something that works well. It's quite easy to bypass because it's based on ECUs, and you only need to unlock the ECU itself. But SFD2 is much more complex, meaning it goes into each line of coding and parameter. So that makes things much harder to do to retrofit. And as for now, I mean, we are working on a solution. But what we can offer now is, we can offer SFD2 retrofits for the cars if you can bring the car to our headquarters here in Germany. But that's not our main business because we need to ship out these things. Yep. And as for now, we are working on a solution on that, and that's also combined in combination with our dongles. You already know, because we have set up a new project on the dongle itself, which allows us to remote code the car. That means if you get a Kufatec dongle, we can and you can give us access by a laptop.
Oh wow!
Of course, with internet connection, we can connect remotely to the dongle to your car and perform all these kinds of codings and modifications.
So you make the retrofits even easier now. And so when we step back, what is typically needed for the retrofits? Of course, tons of research, but you already do it. Then typically you need the OEM hardware. If it's the headlight, and usually it's accompanied by a control unit. Then you need to have a harness, and then you need to adjust or adapt the software. That's the dongle. And so you have a solution for everything, and you also offer remote adaptation or coding assistance. That is amazing. So literally, if I want to retrofit European taillights, that's the job that I have done, then I could buy the entire kit, or 360 cameras. Then I can buy the entire kit from you. That is like literally plug and play. I just quote literally plug and play because you of course still need to pull some of the dash parts, etc. But so are those like the three components: the ECU, the units, the harness, and the coding, the typical components of the retrofit?
Yes, I mean that's the main thing. You always need harness, components, and the coding. So and then you got a system. I mean, it sounds quite easy, but at the end, it's quite complex because you need to install it, and that's the next thing we are because I mean sometimes it's not that easy to upgrade some things because you need to also replace other existing units in the car. For example, if you go for Cassie, that's a keyless system. In most cases, you also need to replace the VCM of the car because the basic one installed in the car, I mean, it also depends on which one is installed in the car. But in most cases, you also need to replace it because it simply does not support these features. So that makes things a little bit more complex, and you also need to have access to because I mean, if you replace these units, you also need to adapt the theft protection, meaning you cannot do it by your own. You need to go to your local dealer or book in our remote services, which we also offer for things like this.
I love it. And so you also offer the remote coding services, and that is something that if I buy the special dongle that you have, then there is some package where I can buy some amount of time for coding. Then if I need help with coding and maybe I've already retrofitted the parts, that's the type of solution or service that you offer as well, or?
Well, kind of. I mean, our team is very limited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
and it's a very special thing we do here. Meaning, it's quite hard to find technicians who can offer these services we would like to offer. And for that reason, because I mean, our team is very small, and for that reason, we need always to check if you bought something with us. I mean, if you did not buy anything with us, then we need to tell you, sorry, we cannot help you, because this service is only for our customers.
Understood. Totally get it. Totally get it. Yep, totally get it.
I'm telling this because not everyone understands this, and this results in, well, sometimes rude discussions because people are frustrated. I mean, if you spend some $100, install something into your car and it's not working, and then you ask us and we tell, sorry, we cannot help you because you didn't buy anything at us.
And I totally, so let me interject here because I totally get it. Many of the retrofits, you talked about this many times, people can get into rabbit holes very quickly because one change leads to not only coding of some different module, but adding maybe some signal wires and changing different modules. So there is a dependency. And when you sell the kit in Kufatec, then you've already researched all these dependencies, and then you offer the right solution for the specific car, because it's even the model year that may make a difference. One example, when I was retrofitting GTI steering wheel on my Mark V Jetta, at some point they have changed from 2 igniter airbag into 1 igniter airbag, and the unit that was under the steering wheel that I needed to replace only had pins for the 1 igniter airbag, right? And so these are the things that you cannot easily find without just going deep into wiring diagrams and kind of having the knowledge of doing this on regular basis. And that's what you, Nima, bring, because you already have this knowledge and you know what other things need to be changed or adjusted.
Yeah, please don't get me wrong. Nothing is 100%. So we are trying to approach 100%, but we are somewhere at 95 probably. So,
what is your most popular retrofit that you sell at Kufatec?
Rear view cameras. So it's fascinating how many cars are without rear view cameras, and that's one of our top selling products. So.
Okay. And for people like us that have the rear view camera but may want to retrofit the 360 area view cameras, you have that kit as well, right?
Yeah, so we also offer.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it depends on the car. We don't offer this for all cars, but most cars we offer 360 cameras. And
wow.
I mean, frankly speaking, these are quite popular upgrades. Nevertheless, I mean, camera systems, assisting systems. It's unbelievable how many cars are without parking sensors. That's well, I don't get it, but that's also one of the major big selling products.
And you not only sell this for all VW brands, but also BMW and Mercedes, right? Is that, or what other brands are very popular that you see customers?
Yes, I mean, we sell it for the Volkswagen Group, meaning Volkswagen, Audi, Seat, Skoda, and also Lamborghini. But for BMW, we got a few products for BMW. We would also like to extend our products for BMW, but we simply don't have resources to extend that group at that point. But what we are doing is to extend our product range for Mercedes, and that's something that we started around about let me take 2.5 years ago. And but it's going quickly up, and it's really interesting market too. So, but I mean, for Mercedes and you can say for all options, for all cars we offer these, it's the same: camera systems, parking aid, and of course things like adaptive cruise control and things like this. These are because people are they would like to have more technical stuff installed in the car.
Can you help me add full self-driving into my D4?
Well, unfortunately, no.
Maybe there's a full self-driver for hire. So, hey, Wes, you can hire me to be your FSD.
Thank you.
And
I'm sorry.
So Nima, I just out of curiosity, because like many of these German manufacturers are using maybe similar OEM suppliers, right? But there are still differences. So if you're retrofitting a parking sensors for VW or BMW or Mercedes brand, then those components are different. The harnesses are different. Maybe even the connectors are different, right?
Yes.
So they're not interchangeable, of course.
No, it's not. I mean, except for the Volkswagen Group.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the platform. Mm-hmm. And for Volkswagen, there are a lot of things that you can use from Golf 8 on A3 and things like this. But nevertheless, it's also what I mentioned in the beginning, the parameterized ECUs. You cannot install a Golf 8 parameterized ECU in an A3. This will fail.
Wow. Okay. And so when we talk about parameterization, the parameterization is something that is outside of the adaptation or coding that you can typically do with a tool like VCDS, right? It's something that is done in the factory on the production line when the ECU is programmed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can it be done with Otis?
I'm sorry? Yes, it can be done. Yes, it can be done with Otis, but only if the car has the option you need, because it's done online.
It's done through VIN, right? So Otis checks the VIN of the car, probably.
Yes, it checks the VIN of the car, and if the car has that option, then it will parameterize that ECU. But it will not hurt you if you retrofit something in the car which does not have that option.
And you can't fool it by sending the VIN of another car that does have that option.
You could do that, but that's quite risky, because if you're unlucky, then you will also change other coatings in the car, because if you simulate a different VIN, I mean, I saw that some Chinese companies are offering these VIN changing devices. It works if you know what you are doing.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know what.
So we are going to getting on a thin territory. So let's move off that thin territory.
Yeah, sorry.
No. That's all good. Tell us about the SFD2 that we talked about earlier. Is that something that we are seeing? Is it something that is the UNICE, the United Nations cyber security initiative that many of the ID4 cars that even we see here in US for 24 and 25 has been coming with? Or is it something even beyond that?
It's affected. I mean, there are some cars after 2024, but nevertheless, all newer cars will get SFD2. And I have no idea what the main reason is for this, because we have a lot of dealerships, and they are quite frustrated because sometimes they order the wrong car, and then it gets delivered and the customer tells him, I wanted to have that option, and it's not installed. And now it is changing, but before that they had to tell the customer, sorry, you need to order a new car or live with it. So I also talked to Volkswagen about this, but they are not that much interested in things like this. So
Yeah,
I have no idea
yeah,
why they look up everything this much.
I get it. Because from the Volkswagen perspective, well, I think that they struggle with how do we monetize all these over the air updates and these features. But that's like on them. Let's not discuss it here. I think that if I'm a Volkswagen, I want everyone to order the equipment in the car from me. And the reason is not that I want to collect the money. The reason is that I need to then service the car. I need to upgrade the car with new software updates. And then as a software manufacturer, I know the exact starting point that the vehicle has. And then I can technically provide a good service and good upgradability into the future. Like that's my read, but I could be wrong. What do you think about this?
Well, that's definitely a point, especially with the newer cars. I mean, they get every some weeks there are some over-the-air updates because the software is still not that good as it should be. So from that point, it's clear. But they could solve these retrofit problems in a totally different way. That's what Mercedes offers. I mean, if you want to offer some, if you want to upgrade your Mercedes to any option. You can install all components into the car, and then you can add that option to the car's history. That means you can change the car's history.
That makes sense.
And then the main computer knows that this car has now rear view camera, cruise control, whatever. So this is something Volkswagen could also do.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I also discussed this with Volkswagen Zubehör. But I told them, and that's some years ago. Yeah. Since then, nothing has changed.
My biggest frustration with this sort of thing is that it seems to me leaving wires out of a harness seems penny wise and pound foolish, if you know that expression, right? It's like they're saving pennies here, and it's costing. How much money does it cost them to keep different SKUs in stock and different software versions for different modules to save the 40 cents for an extra LEN transceiver?
Yeah, exactly. That boggles our mind. Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's $100 in the course of the car. Maybe it's a few $100s, but it can't be worth that much money to keep the different SKUs and have all the different software. And it makes it so much harder. And I'll tell you, I noticed that Kufatec sells trailer control modules. I bought a trailer control module and went to put it into my ID4, and my US rear-wheel drive ID4 does not have the trailer preparation. So there's nothing.
Like the wires aren't there, and as you mentioned, Wes, what we were just looking at, if we want to add front ventilated seats, then the LIN controller on the central electronic module, the SESM, has a different LIN transceiver. It's the same PCB, but only it's like one interface or one bus LIN transceiver opposed to two LIN bus transceivers.
Right? The ASIC chip on there only has one LIN bus.
And so it's kind of interesting that they kind of strip these components, and in the volume that they're making, is it really making so much difference? Because we don't believe that they're doing it so that they want to prevent people from retrofitting. It's probably done for cost saving, but is it really worth it?
But to be honest, it is definitely cost saving. Otherwise, they would not do that. Exactly. So that's, you need to imagine, they are selling some thousands of cars. And if you can save $2 or $3 per ECU, so it is summed up to $200,000 or $300,000. So it's definitely a cost thing. We have the same issue with our PCBs, and there is a lot of money you can save with it.
Wow.
So therefore, you need to optimize it. It's definitely not good for the customer who wants to retrofit something. But for the mass market, they offer these cars. It makes sense.
Well, in the U.S., the problem is, and North American market in general, we can't get a lot of the options that you have in the EU market. And so if we could, people would be more likely to order those options. But if you can't even get them here, then retrofitting is the only option. So of course I'm going to install this trailer control module anyway. I'm going to run wires to the fuse panel, and because I'm stubborn.
Well, and unfortunately, that's what you got to do, right? So if you want to add the head-up display that is not available in the US, or the DCC that is not available in the US, or there was one, or the 360 that was available. I'm not sure if it's available going forward on the newest models. So these are some of the things that here in the US we are kind of forced to do because we cannot order the car with that option. And even that VW makes them, that option is not available for the US market. Right, so that's it is what it is, I guess. But so maybe
Do you know the reason?
I'm sorry, go for it.
Do you know the reason why it's not available? Because
we can speculate.
Really?
The hypothesis is that there are three main brands, and I'm not mentioning these like high brands. So today in the US we have VW, Audi, and Porsche. And that's hypothesis that we have is that they want to drive some differentiation between these vehicles. And I think that it looks like they've learned from the Arteon that was, they were trying to sell a VW that was in the price range of Audi A4, right? And so that's why they're trying to pull these different cars apart a little bit more. And so that's why you cannot spec out the ID4 here as much as you can do in Europe. But that's just hypothesis.
Okay, I see.
Porsche is the exception. Porsche, the joke is that everything is an option on a Porsche. You go to the configurator and it's every single thing under the sun is.
Yes, but for Porsche, Porsche does not offer any matrix LED headlights. I think
really?
This is not. I think it has some regulation issues
in the US. Yes. So
no, in the US, because we have had some customers in the US asking for the matrix LED, and because it's simply not available in the US.
We have the
hardware.
Speaking
of, the ID4s have the hardware for the matrix LED. So can Kufatec sell us the dongle and just program the hardware?
Well, the main issue is, we have several requests from the US, but the problem is we have not tested the product by ourselves in a US spec car. And we don't want to.
We have two volunteers here, so let's do it. Like we'll buy the dongle remotely. No, I know.
Okay, that's something we can talk later about it, and maybe we can find a solution at that point. But the main issue is we don't want to ship something over the Atlantic, and at the end it doesn't work.
Exactly.
And that's the main reason why we need to reject several requests from the US. And tell the customers, sorry, we don't have a solution because we have not tested it yet.
Well, and that's why people trust your company is because they know that you've tested and verified these solutions. And
yes, we sell only tested and verified solutions. Nevertheless, also on those cases, we can run into problems. But then that's where our technical support kicks in and tries to solve the problems. But the main thing we would like to do is to sell a fully 100% tested kit, so we don't have any issues. We are trying to.
And that's the right thing to do because then you stand behind it, your customers are happy, and it's all good. Like that's the right approach for sure. So Nima, we wonder, because we are ID4 drivers both with Wes, are there some kind of different types of products that you would be seeing that customers would be retrofitting for electric cars versus the ICE vehicles, or is the trend kind of unchanged?
It's unchanged. At least what I see. So
I see. Okay.
I'm not sure how much, but I think that we got a quite good view on the market about this, and I don't see anything special at that.
That makes sense. And so if we buy a retrofit solution from you, and then my car goes through a over-the-air update, and the controller that was coded, that was related, or the adaptation that was changed that was related to this retrofit, it gets reset to what we've talked about before, right? The original equipment. So if I have the component from you, like what's my next step? What would I need to do after the OTA update?
Well, those cars with SFT, you need to drive to your local dealer, ask them to unlock SFT on the car, and then reuse the dongle on the car.
I see. Okay.
And that's for that reason you get a dongle with
I see.
With a
kit.
I
see. Okay.
And they will always recode the car to the configuration you need.
That's awesome. So it's like as easy as plugging it in. So you don't have to change like 10 or 20 or 100 adaptation channels. No, because the dongle does it.
No, you don't need to. That's what a dongle does. I mean, that's also the main reason why we introduced a dongle to the market, because coding has been getting more and more complex.
Yes.
I mean, if you're unlucky, you need to code up to 10, 15, 20 EQs in one card for a retrofit. Wow. I mean, it depends on what kind of retrofit.
But you would have to unlock SFD on each of those modules.
If they are SFD locked, right?
Yes. You need to unlock SFD, but not all EQs got SFD. So it's, let's say, 5 or 6 units EQs you need to unlock, and the rest is without the lock.
Wow.
But that's for SFD1. SFD2 has totally changed.
Different game. Wow.
That's different. Wow.
Yeah. So, Nima, it has been great talking to you. We have a few more minutes to wrap up. So we have this universal question. What motivates you, Nima, every day?
Well, I mean, it started as a hobby, and it's still a hobby for me to come here. And it makes me really happy to see that I can change things selling worldwide. So that's my motivation, that small company somewhere in northern Germany, which is not typically known for automotive components, delivers products into the whole world. So that's my motivation.
That's thank you for sharing. Wes or Nima, are there any other things that...
Well, yeah, last question. Since we are an electric car podcast, have you explored any electric cars yourself? And if you were to get one, do you have one that you're interested in? Or are you holding on to your ice?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I drove a lot of electric cars in the past because, my current car, which is a RS6, is I need to return it by mid of January. And for that reason, I was looking for a new car. And I wanted to have something new. And I drove Tesla. I drove BYD.
Yep.
And I also drove Audi e-tron, Porsche Taycan, which is, almost the same except for the exterior, and also the Mercedes EQS. And I'm going to get the EQS now.
Nice.
Wow. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my next car.
Nice. It's a nice looking car.
It's something totally different, and I'm also looking forward to it. So,
yeah.
And on top of it, as you mentioned, Mercedes supports the lightweight retrofit, right? So if you find one thing that is not there, which I doubt, because I'm sure it's going to be fully spec, because at least that's what you can do, then you can still retrofit the right way. I love it. So
I hope.
That's great. Well, we'll find out, won't we?
We'll find out. Exactly.
So, great.
Okay.
Thank you, Nima, for being here. This is really great. And I feel like I learned several things just being on here with you. So thank you so much.
It's a pleasure for me to be with you and to be part of this interview. So thank you too.
Thank you so much to our listeners sticking with out all the way to here. So please go to kufatec.com if you haven't already opened the website and check out the products that Nima's company is offering, and follow us on the ID Talk forum, and subscribe to VWIDTalk podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks.